How's everyone doing? That's pathetic. Are we in Westwood? I'm just checking.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just try it again. This is the home of the trophy, right? Okay. So, all right, how's everyone doing?
Yeah.
All right, that's better. Started with very inspirational speech, my friend here, which he's got me to donate for, so I'm in. So talking about how to build brands and how to generate some creativity and happy to be here to share some thoughts with you guys. I've been lucky enough to be part of some pretty incredible brands. Each one has a different story and a different way of how it became part of the part of pop culture. I don't have a clicker, so I would just say click every time I got to go, right? Click. So very high tech. So, what's happening today? We talked earlier about how I pick brands. Well, everyone's trying to be a little healthier, and it's starting earlier and earlier. Back in the day, I used to, I don't know, maybe you guys do it still, but when I'd come back from clubbing or I'd go to a party, I'd come back and finish off like a huge chicken fried rice and maybe like a pizza. And I think that maybe you guys still do that, but I think that there's a little bit more, certainly with women, there's definitely a high degree of consciousness about what you eat, what you put in your body. Back then, there wasn't. And so, if we click again, everybody's looking to get more from what they eat and drink. And my feeling is, look, I would like to get in some tech deals, and I've gotten some cool tech deals. I also missed some because I'm a little stupid, but Uber just being one of them. But basically, I don't understand a lot of the tech stuff. I do understand stuff you eat and drink. Because I feel that a lot of the things on the grocery store shelves today aren't really that great for you. They were developed 30, 40 years ago, a lot of the big brands. They were done to be made cheap. They have a ton of corn in them. The fact that the Mexican Coke has sugar, but the American Coke has high fructose corn syrup is kind of crazy. The fact we make high fructose corn syrup cheaper than sugar means that there's an opportunity for entrepreneurs in America to fill the grocery shelves with new stuff, whether it's beverages, whether it's snacks, candy, you name it. Which is why my personal belief is this is the greatest country in the world for entrepreneurs. And it's not just tech entrepreneurs. I feel that across the board, this is the greatest country to create new brands. And we set trends generally that flow from west to east. And a lot of guys come in, they look at what's happening, what's hot here, whether it's on the tech front or fitness front or food stuff, and it all starts flowing across the world this way. So for you guys who want to get into this world, you got to just tap into the insights. So what are the insights? People are looking for healthier products today. We talked about it earlier. Why did pop chips explode? Because fundamentally the product's good. The baked Lays taste horrible. It's like eating cardboard. Pop chips is the same thing, half the fat, except it tastes good. It's like eating a potato chip. Half the fat, when you have it, you don't have to wipe your pants, get the grease on it, and so on and so forth. So that's why pop chips took off. People want products to do more for them. Gatorade's a great product, but honestly, when you walk from here to parking structure A and it's 80 degrees outside, you don't really need to drink a Gatorade. Like no one's really expended so much energy that they need to replete themselves. And one before, sorry, it clicked. And Vita Coco gives you way more electrolytes than a Gatorade. It gives you more potassium, which most people here probably are potassium deficient, not sodium deficient. You have one bag of chips and you're done for your sodium. You're good to go. But for potassium, you're not. And as I mentioned earlier, in the war of man versus nature, nature's undefeated. So coconut water took off. Yogurt. Yogurt's not exactly that blistering a category. But suddenly Chobani and Fage came along, and they gave you more. They switched the formula. Instead of 8 grams of protein and 20 grams of sugar, they're giving you 20 grams of protein, 8 grams of sugar. And now you're throwing it in everything. Burrito, let's go, put this on. Taco, let's put this on. Hamburger, let's put this shit on, because it's got protein. And so it suddenly exploded. The guy's company's worth $4 billion or $5 billion, I heard now. So you want to become more than just a brand. It starts with having an original idea. Now, it's good news, bad news. Good news is I've been a part of some great products. The bad news, I've never had an original idea. What I do is I go find an incredible product with a visionary CEO, a founder who has had that original idea. But if you, in this room, are definitely some smart people who will have their original idea. And I then help build a brand. And what do? You have to have the right ingredients. And I have my own 3 Ps. You guys may have yours. Everyone has their own 3 Ps or whatever you want to go with. But mine is, it starts with the product. Number 1, you cannot push a bad product uphill. Friendster tried that, didn't work. Instead, Facebook came out. You have a great product, whether it's a vitamin water, whether it's a pop chips, whether it's a Chobani, it moves well. Then you have to have great people. And everyone says that, But it's not just about smart people, it's about great people. So this one of the guys I used to work with, smart guy, put this thing on his board, which is pretty clever. It's called IQ versus EQ. So IQ is definitely important, but EQ can be energy or emotional quotient. And when you start a new company, you need people, product, and you need passion. And sometimes I've taken higher EQ and lower IQ because that's what the company needed. Because the smart guy in the cube running the analysis wasn't going to get the distributors fired up. And there's some guys that I put in who could fire up people if you wind them up and send them in the right direction. And companies get built, you need to have IQ and EQ. And that passion has to be there, especially in entrepreneurial companies. In big companies, maybe, maybe not. They tick away whether you're passionate or not. People clock in for the job. But in entrepreneurial companies, you got to have that passion. And then defy the experts. Whenever you start something new, there's going to be industry experts who will say, this is nice, it's interesting, it won't work. And my favorite phrase, it's a nice niche product. Because guess what? Everything is bloody niche until it's not. And so that's what happens. So I feel that in this room, you guys should really make the news, not write the news. So a lot of the talking heads in industries across the world write the news. Vitamin water was a nice niche product. $4 billion later, maybe it wasn't. Right? Greek yogurt was a niche product. Things are always niche, and then they explode. And so you've got to defy the experts, believe in yourself, and become a student of pop culture. I'm involved in a number of products, whether it's vitamin water, smart water, pop chips, Vita Coco, the new one that I'm going to shill for here called Buy. That's 5 calories, naturally sweetened, and tastes great, whether it's the Kensington ketchup. But all the products I get involved in, I become a student of pop culture for those brands. How does that brand work? Who's the audience? Why do they want to eat it, drink it? Where do I send it? Because not every formula is the same. So if you want a brand to be part of pop culture, I don't care how successful or talented you are, open up Pop Culture 101 for that brand. And finally, be different. It's okay to be different. If you don't want to be a Me Too, be different. Don't be an ass about it, but be different. And I think that's a challenge that people who are successful entrepreneurs are. You don't have to be the nicest guy in the room, but you do have to be different. So how do you go from becoming a brand to creating a phenomenon? Well, the best way to do that is create a category. If you look at the biggest brands out there, whether it's in tech, whether it's in CPG, when you create a category, when you create something brand new and breakthrough, that's when you have a monster. Vitamin water created the enhanced water category, broke through. The Greek yogurt category, yogurt was huge, but Greek within that exploded, created it. You look at the tech space, whether it's in Uber, created a brand new category. Now there's a bunch of other companies going to follow them, the copycats everywhere. But those guys who come and create a category, Gatorade did it years ago and is still holding strong to it. So Red Bull did it in energy. You create the category, everyone else will come in behind you, but that's when you become a phenomenon, and you need to make that part of pop culture. Whether it doesn't have to be with celebrities, but celebrities do a good job of introducing products to people. When you guys flick through the magazines, you don't go, I'm going to drink that because Madonna's drinking it, but you're like, interesting, what's Madonna drinking? Move on. That registers in your head. Next time you go to the shelf, you're like, you know what? I did see that, let me try it. And then back to my whole original point, if the product's good, you're going to buy it. So then you come in for the repeat. And then finally, when you actually do really well with a great category and you make it part of pop culture, you reap the rewards. In tech, you reap them at 22. Maybe in other industries, you reap them at like 42. But otherwise, you reap them. So you have to have some brand mantras. One of the ones I talked about earlier. I believe in living the brand. So be a brand messiah versus a brand manager. Stevie hates it when I tell the story, but basically, I was in Powerade, I was interviewing a guy, he was coming in for a job, and I said, oh, great, I'm a big believer in brand messiahs. Do you drink the product? Do you eat it? So what do you work on now? It's, I don't know, 28-year-old guy. He goes, I work on Tampax. I said, what? I said, how the hell does he know how it works? Where does he put it? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, it was just like, that was not a brand messiah. I'm sure he did okay on the brand, but you kind of need to, there's a very big company thinking, like put a dude on Tampax. That makes sense. So I think that for me, I always interview people and I make sure they're a part of it. They use the product, they drink the product, they eat the product, they understand it. Because if you don't use it, it's all theory. And then the insights and the sizzle doesn't come through. Influence the influencers. One in 10 Americans influence the other 9. In this room, I don't know who you are, but I'll probably find you at some point. But in this room, you have 1 in 10 Americans influence. This guy here is probably that 1 in 10, right? He sent the email comes out, he gets his ass up here, convinces all of you and me to give him money, and so now, and he's going to go build a school in Zambia. That's like an influencer. He's convinced a lot of people in this room, definitely at least 9 of you, along with himself, to donate some money. So when you try and build brands, it's too expensive to get to 100 people. You can only get to 10. Find that 1 in 9 that gets to the rest. And then create the right culture. We talked about it. When you build a company, it's not just in tech. You see it in tech. You see it in Google, where they have this, you can wear your underwear to work if you want, and you can cycle backwards into, it's like Google's unique, agreed, and they have $1 billion cafeteria budget. Not everyone has that, but if you start your own company, still make it cool. I don't care whether it's like it's a loft space that has 3 beds in it. Just make it fun. Whatever you start with, have a culture. Go out with your team. Bond as a unit and create a culture that people feel like they really want to come in and charge the hill with you. And then believe. We talked about this, but it's part of my theme. America is one of the greatest countries in the world to be an entrepreneur. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you've got to have that original idea and then believe in yourself. And you've got to keep believing because you will hit walls. I got fired, as we talked about, twice at least. I think I just done too well for them to fire me. But frankly, I realized at that point maybe I wasn't made for corporate America. But if I had taken the first firing and said, oh, he's right, I shouldn't be a marketer, I'd be in trouble. So I think that every time you hit a brick wall, if you believe in yourself, go through it. Now, if you hit brick walls, then you may get a headache, change the career path you're in. But, so we talked about, so let me throw some ideas on what we do. Because one of the things that I talk about a lot, and that we did at Vitamin Water and Pop Chips and other brands, is creative disruption. You guys probably study that. You guys have seen it. You guys are maybe part of it. Adam's actually a friend of mine, and what he's done with Pensive Promise is creative disruption. His brother does it a lot with the guy he manages, who's just a creative disruption himself, but is also someone who gets the news out there. Brands that create disruption break through. So when I signed a black rapper who had been shot 9 times to a medicinal looking beverage, that was creative disruption. And the reason I chose someone who was a nice natural fit, it wouldn't have worked. Vitamin Water looked like a medicinal product, right? It didn't have that cachet. It's got vitamins in it, so it's like, oh, it's got the functional cachet. It didn't have the sort of, I want to make this part of my daily routine. So I had a discussion with 50. 50 is a guy who believed in himself. And at the time, it was between 2 guys, 50 and Jay. And honestly, I knew 50. That's how it worked out. No one would give me Jay-Z's number. So I met with 50, and basically, I had no money, or not enough that he needed. I mean, he would make, back then, he'd fly to Dubai, perform for a night, and make $1 million. That's not, I don't have that budget. But what he got very early, because he's a smart businessman, he said, you know what? Here's the minimum amount of cash I need, but really give me skin. And we made it a skin deal. And I said, fine. You believe in yourself. We believe in our brand. If we achieve these numbers, you get what you want to get. Now, he made a lot of money. Everyone wants to know how much he made. Unfortunately, I can't tell you. We have a deal. I don't say how much he made. He doesn't shoot me. I think it's a fair deal. It's a fair deal, and I would like to stick to it. But it gave 50 a lot of credibility beyond just what he did with the industry, with Eminem, with Dre, with you name it in the music industry. He became this big entrepreneur, and this brand got associated with him, will always be associated with him. And that's when everyone else started jumping in. Every major celebrity out there in music or in sports wants to be part of a brand and wants equity in the brand. And so what we did with 50, though, in terms of creative disruption, was different. It wasn't about 50 necessarily like in a rap video and using some of the stereotypical imagery that 50 had put in his own videos. It was, let's change the game up a bit. So can we run the video, maybe dim the lights? Is that possible? I don't know what the tech situation here is, but.
Welcome to a televised performance of the National Symphony. We'll be hearing Beethoven's Ninth, and the conductor, Shimizu Matsuka, will be replaced by a relative newcomer, Curtis Jackson, also known as the rapper 50 Cent.
He says he's always loved the work of Beethoven and often thinks of him as a true OG. Kept so busy by his recording career, it hasn't felt up to trying this. But since he began drinking Vitamin Water Formula 50, he feels he's up to the task.
One more change, this one for the first viola chair, DJ Who Kid. Sounds like he's integrated his hit into club. Extraordinary. And now he's calling out the trombonist for a solo, which is great because they'd been rumored to have beef before the show.
Vitamin water, try it.
So it's different, right? That's the creative disruption you guys want there. That's interesting. Him in a rap video drinking vitamin water gone nowhere. Him, and we actually we got an orchestra in a room. They started with Beethoven's ninth, and then they went into the in the club, and so it was all well done. And 50 loved it. When we shot the print campaign with him, he was very different. He was like this little dog in his arm, getting his milk from the front doorstep. Like it was not the 50 you knew, but that's what helped it break through. Another creative disruption story. A guy called Brian Urlacher. If you guys have heard of him, he was huge at the time, both physically and on the field. One of the greatest middle linebackers of all time. And Brian was the Chicago Bears, and the Bears went to the Super Bowl. So we thought, okay, how do we try and create some noise? Because Gatorade, I'm like on a Gatorade. They have like a dartboard. I know this because one of my friends worked there. They got my picture and they throw darts in my picture. And so Gatorade was like the NFL sponsor. They knew we were coming, and they put up all these sort of roadblocks effectively to prevent us going there. So we said to Brian, look, why don't you wear the vitamin water hat? And one of my the guy who was head of sales at the time of the company had a very smart idea. He said, look, you know what? Just have Brian wear the hat and pay him some money. So I said, fine. So we went to Brian and said, we're going to give it to your charity because you have enough money. But what's your number? 54? We'll pay you 54 grand. Give it to your charity. So he goes, okay, fine. So he went there. He put his hat on. I think the hat must have gone on for like 30 seconds before like the Gatorade police came running. Told the NFL guy goes to Brian's guy goes to Brian, hat's off. So basically, let's assume we were out for 54, because my math is not good, 54 seconds, 54 grand. It costs us $1,000 a second to have that hat on. Probably wasn't the best use of money, because this is also back in the day when the NFL Network wasn't as big and no one was watching press day. There were like 6 people who actually watched this. Now you're getting much better coverage. So we're like, okay, we let it go. That's the end of that. You got to try stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. 2 months later, Brian gets a note. He doesn't always check his locker, frankly. But he said he must have missed it for 2 months. Goes in there. He's got a fine from the NFL for $100,000 for wearing a hat. I mean, this guy's up for double homicide in the NFL. They don't have that sort of fine. And this guy here has got a hat up there and $100,000. So he calls us. What do we do? We said, no, it's up to you, buddy. Once he finished coming through the phone and almost killing us, we said, joking, we're going to cover this, no problem, but we need you to play ball with us. We got the picture. We gave that story to AP. I mean, this guy's a great guy if you meet him. I mean, he wore a hat, big deal. Like, give him a $5,000 fine, call it a day. We gave the story to AP, and the amount of press we got because of the fine was insane. Could we run that little video?
Bears linebacker Brian Urlacher fined $100,000 for the NFL for drinking vitamin water and wearing a vitamin water hat during a Super Bowl media session.
Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Tony Roger Goodell fined Brian Urlacher for wearing a vitamin water cap, but he can't find me.
We got about $10 million worth. I mean, every sports network picked this up, and that's creative disruption. We took the risk. When we got round 2, instead of sitting back and saying, oh, let's just pay the fine, we paid the fine, we leaned into it, we ran it everywhere, and then we actually donated another $100,000 to the United Way, which is the NFL's charity foundation. So the NFL couldn't say anything. Like, we shut all the doors around Gatorade, basically, and it was a big win. Sometimes we just a little more controversial. Wow, this should hit home. So we had a product on vitamin water called Essential. I actually designed it because I used to drink orange juice. I didn't want to drink any orange juice because a lot of sugar in orange juice. And I wanted all the sort of nutrients, the vitamin C and all the good stuff, but half the calories. So we created a product called Essential Vitamin Water. But how do you create buzz? So we basically decided to put a billboard and we said, you know what? OJ found guilty of being too high in sugar, that is. And that went up on Sunset Boulevard. And we had helicopters flying around this thing. We got coverage in like 30 markets across America for the essential flavor. Obviously, we're playing into pop culture. It's definitely tongue-in-cheek. Created disruption. Made a difference. And this is, I mean, how the hell else do you talk about, you know, an orange flavor of vitamin water? Yeah, and the last one here, which I'll show you, is interesting. Humor is a big part of the brand. I think in this country, everywhere in the world, but in this country a lot, humor is a big part of building brands. And so when you get a big guy like Shaq, like, you got to try and find something that, Shaq is a very creative guy. He'd call me at all sorts of times. Bro, I'm in Miami. I'm running through the streets. Like some of the ad Shaq's in, you see why they're like that. Some of these ideas come out of his head. He literally wanted to scale buildings and stuff. He's out of his mind. Very creative guy. So we one of the founders of the company was actually into horse racing. He's one of the biggest horse racers in the country. So he said, how about we put Shaq on a horse? And I'm like, oh, good Lord, really? And Shaq's like, yeah, I'm there, let's get on the horse. And like 3 of us there suddenly in the Mandarin Oriental Hotel come up with the Shaq getting on a horse. So like, all right, fine. So, and then we thought, oh, this is crazy. No point running at an average pace. Let's run it at the Super Bowl. So this is the ad we ran at the Super Bowl with Shaq.
It's One Trick Pony and Copernicus battling a length ahead with Mike from Queens on the outside of Prime Chili and Benny the Waiter, Toothless Tiger and Old Man Gator at the back of the pack. And there's the long shot, new jockey Shaquille O'Neal on Chunk of Love. Extraordinarily large for a jockey. He apparently tried Vitamin Water Power C with vitamin C and taurine and decided to saddle up for this. He said he wanted a crown to go with all those rings. And Chunk of Love, half Clydesdale on the other side, not normally known for speed, is coming on like an angry Viking. Now alongside Julio Cuaron, and Shaq's boxing out Cuaron is setting his dominance in the low post. We're down the stretch with less than a furlong. Unbelievable! Benny the Waiter and Prime Chili coming together to keep Shaq back, but Shaq won't be denied. The crowd is on its feet. Prime Chili, Chunk of Love, Benny the Waiter, too close to call at the wire. Sweet mother of molasses, it's a photo. It's Shaq by a nose, and he's done it. O'Neal and Chunk of Love have taken the crown. One for the record books. O'Neal and a valiant filly named Chunk of Love have made history. Vitamin Water, try it.
So again, if you want to do it, pick a big forum, make it creative. It was one of the top 5 ads at USA Today that year. So everything that I found that we've done on brands help create disruption for your brand. It'll make you seem much larger than you are. It just gets people to try it, and it goes back to what I said at the beginning. If you've got a great product, people try it and they buy it. The other thing we do a lot is when we have certain celebrities, it's about building, fostering relationships. One of the things that I push my teams on, and if you guys do this, your Rolodex is critical. Everybody you guys meet, people you end up signing, maintain those relationships. Teams that are having pop chips, fantastic team. They time with the celebs and they build a relationship with them. And when that happens, you get value-added stuff that you didn't pay for. Here's an example. Bruno Mars has gone on to be a massive star. Pop just had a relationship with him early. He was very big at the time. And the team did such a great job that Bruno, just freestyling, puts this out on the internet of his own accord, not because he had a passionate relationship with both the brand and the team.
Oh, yeah. I just want to take this time and just let you know how I feel, because I don't think you know. Jackie, I remember when I first laid eyes on you, it was like love at first sight. And then I knew I had to get close to you, near you, with all of my might. All your might. But when I get you in my grasp, ooh, there's only one thing that I ask. Don't you ever go away. Don't you ever stop doing what you're doing, because I love that ass. You know I do now. Sour cream and onion. I love the way you taste. Yes, I do. Sour cream and onion. I want you all over my face. Sour cream and onion. I'm talking about sour cream. I love the way you taste. Sour cream and onion. I want you all over my face. Talk to her.
I remember the first time I opened you up.
Yeah.
You was being so sweet that day.
Always.
attitude, though. You know, I like to call it a little kick.
Right?
But I'm kind of into that. And I just want you to know that no matter what, you will always be my sour cream and onion. Oh, I love the way you taste. I love it, baby. Sour cream and onion. What do we want? I want you all over my face. Woo woo. Sour cream.
Sour cream.
Sour cream and onion.
Oh, an onion.
We love the way you taste. That's for you. God, tasty.
So again, that's the power of relationships. As you guys go through stuff, whenever you connect and you build brands, maintain that relationship. We get more out of that than when you get out of just paying someone going against the contract. The other brand that broke through, and Smart Water. I mean, Smart Water might be any more incredible story than Vitamin Water. It's a plain water. It tastes phenomenal. It's crisp. It's vapor distilled, but it is the fastest growing water in the country at the moment. It's bigger than Fiji. It's twice the size of Evian. Evian tastes horrible, so that's not surprising. But Smart Water is on fire. And the brand started doing well. But this is one where we created disruption. We didn't need the 50-cent Vitamin Water this. This is where you wanted it to flow better. Smart Water's look and feel. You wanted to go with the most pristine sort of female partner, someone who's never had an endorsement deal, someone who really loved the product. That's a big thing that if you sign celebrities or you sign individuals to a brand, you want them to believe in the brand. It's back to the belief piece. It's not just yourselves, it's people you bring in. Jennifer was a perfect fit. And when she came on board, the brand took off. And frankly, this might be the longest relationship she's had. I think it's going on 12 years now. It's 12, 10 years, maybe 10 years, yeah. And incredible brand ambassador. She takes it everywhere. She uses it against a shield, against the paparazzi. Like, it got insane coverage, and it was just a natural fit. And when Jennifer came on board, it made a difference with the distributors. It made a difference with retailers, probably because most of them are horny guys. But fundamentally, it still worked, and the brand took off, and the fit is still there today. So from my perspective, I've been lucky to be part of some incredible brands. But the success criteria always starts, in my opinion, with a great product and great people. And creative disruption, whether it's in tech, what you're seeing today, where Airbnb is worth more than Hyatt now, or whether it's in CPG, where a Vitamin Water and a Chobani or a Pop Chips or a Vita Coco is exploding. Creative disruption in tech and in beverages and in a lot of fields is creating the new normal. Even in television today, Modern Family is now creating the new normal of what the family in America looks like. It's sort of dead right. It's not the typical family that was there 20 years ago. It is the new normal. Trust your gut. That's the difference. Everyone's going to have the same documentation. Doesn't mean don't do research. Do some research. Understand what's going on. Be smart about it. But trust your gut, because that's the edge that you guys have versus the person potentially next to you. My favorite phrase, everything is niche until it's not. Don't listen to the naysayers. Take something that you believe is niche, fight for it, make it big, and then at that point, I believe that it'll no longer be niche. And for that very reason, because of the scale of this country, the amount of people we have here, the development we have here, the innovation that's happening here, and the disruption that's happening in America today that's being followed across the globe, this is the greatest country to be an entrepreneur in. So with that, get out there and go build a brand. Thank you.